What if I told you the United States, one of the most familiar countries on Earth, is filled with secrets, quirks, and hidden truths that most people, even Americans themselves, don't really know? When we think of the U.S., images come to mind immediately. The Statue of Liberty, New York skyline, the Grand Canyon, Hollywood, maybe even the American flag waving in the wind. But beneath these iconic symbols lies a country built on contradictions, curiosities, and stories so unbelievable they sound like fiction. Tonight, we're going on a journey across borders, through time, into places most tourists never see, and covering what most people don't know about the United States. Let's begin. The first hidden truth. America is bigger than you think. It's so massive that you could fit the entire continent of Europe inside its borders and still have room to spare. If you were to drive from the East Coast to the West, you'd cover nearly 3,000 miles, which would take you longer than driving across multiple countries in Europe. But here's the strange part. Despite its enormous size, the U.S. also owns land most people forget about. The Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, Puerto Rico territories scattered across oceans that are technically part of the United States, yet rarely shown on maps. These distant pieces of land give the U.S. a global reach most people overlook. But geography is just the beginning. Did you know there are entire towns in America where the sun never rises during winter, and others where it never sets in summer? Alaska, the northernmost state, experiences this phenomenon. In Barrow now, known as UTSIQ, there are more than 65 days of darkness in winter and over 80 days of endless daylight in summer. Imagine living in a place where night can last months. For many it sounds impossible, yet for thousands of Americans it's normal life. And speaking of the unusual, here is a fact that blows people's minds. There's a town in the U.S. that has been burning for more than 60 years, Centralia, Pennsylvania. Beneath its streets, a coal mine fire has been raging since 1962. Smoke rises through cracks in the earth. The ground is too unstable to build on. And the population has dwindled to just a handful of stubborn residents who refuse to leave. It looks like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie, but it's real.
Ow.
A town on fire for decades. Of course, not every secret is dark. Some are just strange. For example, did you know the U.S. has a law forbidding you from owning more than 2 jukeboxes in certain states? Or that in Kansas, it's technically illegal to put ice cream on cherry pie? These quirky laws, often leftovers from old traditions, remain on the books, might not be enforced anymore, but they reveal how unique and sometimes bizarre local American culture can be. But perhaps one of the most mind-bending facts lies in the ground itself. In Nevada, there is a top-secret military facility. You've definitely heard whispers about Area 51. Officially, it's just an Air Force testing site. Unofficially, it's the subject of countless conspiracy theories. UFOs, alien spacecraft, government experiments, the stories are endless. For decades, the U.S. government denied Area 51 even existed. Only recently was it publicly acknowledged. And even now, what actually happens there remains shrouded in mystery. But let's shift to something even stranger. The U.S. has the tallest trees on Earth, in California's Redwood National Park. Some redwood trees stretch over 380 feet into the sky, taller than the Statue of Liberty. These living giants have been around for thousands of years, silently growing as human civilizations rose and fell. When you stand beneath one, you feel tiny, humbled by time itself. Few people realize that within America's borders live some of the oldest, tallest, and most resilient life forms on the planet. And then there's a lake that shouldn't exist, Crater Lake in Oregon. Formed by a collapsed volcano, it is the deepest lake in the U.S., filled with water so pure it's almost otherworldly. Locals say it has spiritual energy, and some even believe it's cursed. Scientists, however, are fascinated by how the lake's ecosystem has survived untouched for millennia. Few outside the country even know about it, yet it's one of the most breathtaking places on Earth. But let's not forget the human side of these hidden truths. The U.S. is home to the world's largest economy, the most powerful military, and a massive cultural influence. Yet it's also a country filled with contradictions, where extreme wealth exists alongside poverty, freedoms are cherished but constantly debated, and where diversity is celebrated yet often challenged. Most people think they know America through movies, music, or politics, but the reality is far more complex. Here's something few realize. Every year, millions of Americans pack up and move not just within cities, but across states. The U.S. is one of the most mobile societies in the world. It's not unusual for someone to live in 5 or 6 different states throughout their lifetime. This constant movement shapes the culture, creating a dynamic country that is always shifting, always reinventing itself. And if you think borders are straightforward, think again. There's actually a spot in Yellowstone National Park known as the Zone of Death. Because of a legal loophole in jurisdiction, some argue that technically, certain crimes committed there couldn't be prosecuted. It's a quirk of law that has fascinated lawyers, writers, and conspiracy theorists for years. Even America's past hides things few know. For example, the first capital of the United States wasn't Washington, D.C., it was New York City. For a brief time, the young nation's leaders met in Manhattan before eventually moving the capital south. And then there's the fact that the U.S. is the only country to have ever put humans on the moon. For many around the world, that achievement defines American innovation and ambition. But fewer people know just how close the Apollo 11 mission came to failure. If the lunar module had malfunctioned, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin would have been stranded forever. With President Nixon's team even drafting a speech titled An Event of Moon Disaster, it's a haunting reminder of how fragile success can be, even in the most celebrated moments of history. So what do all these secrets, quirks, and strange truths tell us about America? That it's not just a country, it's a story. It's a story of contradictions, of ambition and mistakes, of strange laws and burning towns, of towering trees and endless highways. Most people think they know the U.S. because they've seen its movies, heard its music, or followed its politics. But the real America lives in its hidden corners, its forgotten histories, and its unlikely stories. And maybe that's what makes it so fascinating. The United States isn't just one thing, it's many things all at once. A place of mystery, wonder, and contradictions that the world will probably never fully understand. If this journey has made you see America differently, imagine what other hidden truths are waiting out there in plain sight. So, tell me, what do you think is the most surprising thing you've just learned? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and let's see which fact shocked you the most. And if you enjoyed uncovering these secrets, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who thinks they already know everything about America. Chances are, they'll be just as surprised as you were. Because in the end, what most people don't know is often the most fascinating of all.